Hi, this is Bill. Who's joined us? Hi, this is Bill. Has someone joined the call? Hi, this is Bill. Who's joined the call?
Abby.
Hi, Abby. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic, thanks. Well, we should have a good crowd today. They hopefully will be on time for us. So how's the weather in South Carolina today?
Raining.
No.
Yeah, it's rained all week.
I suppose we need it at this point.
No, we had plenty of rain.
Oh, you've had plenty. Oh, never mind then. We could be in California where they can't
That's true.
get any rain. So
I will gladly send it to them.
There you go. I don't know how possible that is, but we'll look into that. I'll get back to you on that for the next conference call.
Okay.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh. So when does your competition come in the calendar?
March.
In March. Okay, that's pretty early.
Yeah. That's what's worked best for us in the past, so we just keep it in March. Usually the middle of March.
Well, I would imagine it makes a lot of sense to do it that early as kids get into the spring, the number of distractions that increases quite a bit.
Right.
No doubt. That's cool.
Plus, our venue is a lot cheaper in March.
There you go.
Does anything in March?
That is motivating as well, no doubt.
Yep.
Well, that's funny. How many attendees and students do you get to?
The average is 1,200, but we've had up to 1,600 before.
That's a big venue for sure.
Yes.
And they're probably very similar to most markets. There are only so many venues that size, so it's
right.
Yeah, you can't go to most hotels or anything like that.
No.
It's pretty big. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
we
it a
use
stadium
a
of some
convention
kind?
center.
Oh, yeah, and they're not cheap for sure.
No.
Yeah. Well,
Hi, Bill. It's Danny.
Hey, Danny. How are you?
I'm good.
You had to think about that. That's not very good.
That sounds like a question.
Yes. Yeah. Should we let him know how he really is, Abby?
Yeah.
So Abby is on with us.
Hi, Abby.
Hi.
So can you guys see my slides all right?
I can, yes.
Okay, good. And you can see the whole slide? And Abby, are you online?
No, I can't be at a computer right now.
Oh, okay. You're just getting the audio portion then.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Oh.
How are you, Bill?
So, I'm doing well. It's been a busy day, so it's kind of just got to the finish line to be able to make it here. So it's good to be sitting still. So it's about 1 minute before we'll start right at 4 on the east. Is anyone else joined? I have Danny and Abby. Is anyone else on? Looks like we have a couple. Tracy? Welcome, Tracy.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
How are things down in your neck of the woods?
It's much, much better. It finally stopped raining.
Sound familiar, Abby?
No. Our problem up here, when it stops raining, it starts snowing.
Well, send some down this way. I would love to have some snow.
There's an enterprising guy in Boston last year who started selling the snow out of his backyards in styrofoam boxes, and people were ordering snow from all over the world. It was pretty funny.
Oh my gosh.
That is
No,
amazing.
I don't want the fake stuff. I want the real thing.
Oh, he was shipping real stuff. So.
Oh, I thought you said it was styrofoam. Oh, okay.
No, he was shipping it in the styrofoam coolers. He actually ran out of styrofoam coolers. That's how
Oh my
crazy
gosh.
it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, he was
I
shipping it
understand.
all over
I
the world.
understand now.
Yeah, people wanted it. So.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
it is 4 o'clock on the east. I know Abby and Danny and Tracy are on the phone. Has anyone else joined us?
Lori Uhrig is here from Iowa.
Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you.
Hey, Lori.
Hello.
And anyone else? Well, let's hop in. I'm certain that others are joining. We have had a good response from a registration standpoint, but no, we've got a lot on the agenda today, so let's make sure we keep pacing through it. So we're just to refresh the mission. Our mission is to provide students with opportunities to develop creative problem solving and problem identification techniques through inventing, innovating, and entrepreneur activities, leading to greater consideration of STEM careers in high school and college. So always good to frame and get our true north here before we launch into the agenda. So there are really quite a few things we want to talk about today, and kind of as has been tradition so far, there's going to be the first kind of bits are going to be more just sort of updating, and then we'll get into some active discussion. So we'll talk about some new members and actually a new staff member as well, an update on Lewis Foreman and Edison Nation, update on states and members, discussing the at-large and homeschooling opportunities, and update on allocations, and discussion of potentially having teams as well as individuals in the Invention Convention. And then we'll wrap up and talk about our next meeting. So let's hop into it. And I'm going to, Danny and I, as been tradition, will kind of pass this back and forth. So we've got some new members. And Danny, I know Roxanne wasn't going to be on the call today, but do you want to talk a little bit about her?
Sure, absolutely. So, yeah, I was going to say, everybody welcome Roxanne, but she's not on the phone call today. But I put a lot about her in the newsletter. What's really interesting about Roxanne is something that we're encountering in a few states, and that is where you've got a program that's embedded in the university, and the university has certain expectations about what it wants to get out of this and how big it wants it to make it, and how far it will go with something. Typically, universities take part in these because they're doing outreach, but when it comes to hiring personnel to do professional development and go out and actually visit the schools and do a lot of the hands-on regional and local invention conventions and things like that, they're like, well, that's not really the business that we're in. And so she's having some very interesting discussions internally about how far do you take, what does the university want to get out of something, and what might be better off handled in external nonprofit. So they're going through a lot of discussions. Lori, did you go through a lot of those discussions out in Iowa?
Well, I haven't been with the program for that long, and one of the things that I haven't talked with you guys about yet, but I did want to bring up is that I am one of the people who will need help with funding and for doing that work, because at Iowa, in a very much a similar way, it's really an outreach program.
Right. Yeah, so in Connecticut, the way it's set up is that the university sort of gets the best of everything. They get to have the finals event there. They advertise this very much as a UConn hosted capability. It's very much of a UConn branded thing. The parents come up, they get to see the campus, the kids are given tours around the engineering building and all that sort of stuff. And so it's a great opportunity for them to showcase stuff. But the nonprofit is responsible for all the local and regional invention conventions, the professional development, the outreach, and really making it sort of work everything up until the finals event. So in that way, the university gets what it really wants out of the equation and makes the investment that's appropriate for its budget. But the nonprofit is free to go off and raise the money separately and to have its own staff and to do its own partnerships and everything as needed to go off and the outreach and the partnering. And so it's interesting, the main University of Maine at Orno is sort of in the same situation where they're perfectly happy being in this little nugget of space up in northern Maine. Tampa is in a lot of the same ways. They want to do these 9 counties, and that's all they want to do, and they're very happy doing that. So it's an interesting discussion about when is something, where do people want to draw the line, and what do you do on the other side of that line? So I'll be happy to follow up with you, Lori, about the fundraising stuff. Next slide.
Sure. Danny, is this a relative of yours?
Yeah, it's my son. My son has surprise of all surprises, decided that he doesn't want to work for a Fortune 100 firm. That it's not the environment that he likes. He was more of a startup and small company type of guy, and so he's going to help us with fundraising support here with the Invention Convention. And interesting thing about him is he actually did the Invention Convention when he was a kid, and he invented something that he called the trouble detector. And what this was this little device that this was in the 2nd grade. He worked with his Uncle Tom, who's an electrical engineer. He developed something that would clip on his belt, and it would detect motion, jumping up and down, and it would detect loud noises. 2 of the things that always got him into trouble. So it started to vibrate if he was making too much noise or jumping around in his bedroom. And so that was, to a 2nd grader, this was his big problem at the time. So anyway, some of you might be interfacing with Nick as he goes, and he's going to be working on a lot of our very broad outreach, particularly at the city level, getting some mayors and some politicians involved in the whole program.
Cool. All right. So next is to talk about Lewis Foreman and Edison Nation. I know there are a couple of slides on this.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting opportunity. So for those of you who don't know Lewis Foreman, he's like Mr. Invention. He's got a company called Invention that does end-to-end product design and engineering. So you come to with an idea, coming out the backside is a product showing up on Amazon. So they do the full end-to-end process for you. He's been doing Everyday Edison's, which is a Emmy Award-winning TV show on what is it on? It's on NPR? Yeah, NPR, I think. And he's going to be launching Celebrity TV here shortly, which does celebrities starting companies. And basically, he would follow inventors in the whole idea commercialization process. He also has Edison Nation, which is an open platform for people to suggest ideas for products, and then for people to vote them up and to suggest taking them to market. And then Edison Nation Medical, which is very much of the same thing, focused on healthcare ideas. He's also a publisher of Inventors Digest magazine, which I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but it's a pretty neat magazine that talks about inventors and what they're inventing and issues that inventors have to deal with. He's also on the board, or he's chairman of the board of the IP Owners Educational Foundation, which is a foundation that was set up by all the big major patent holders in the U.S. to educate kids about the invention process and the IP process. So he's got his hands in all sorts of different things. And so we've been talking to him, next slide, Bill. We've been talking to him about some things that we'd work on together. And so we're going to be working with the editor-in-chief of Inventors Digest to create an in-magazine special supplement for that month, the month of May, to where there will be actually public things in there about our kids attending the Invention Convention and everything about that, and that'll be an annual thing. And we're also trying to figure out how to put together an EPUB for things that happen like January to March, April, the heavy season for invention activity, so that kids could learn about ideas and ideation and problem solving and other types of suggestions to help them with their inventions. Both of those would be sponsor based, and we'll be getting sponsors to pay for both of those. Edison Nation is also going to do a best of show type of award, where they are going to pick the best product that they think they could market, and they will work with the inventor to actually take it to market and put it on Amazon or some other pathway. And they're going to do a 50-50 split with the inventor to do that. They'll assume all the responsibility for all the design, the prototyping, figuring out the manufacturing, getting it put together, all the funding for all of that. It seems like a pretty good deal to me. It'll be an opt-in award. Obviously, anybody opting in will have to look at the terms and conditions ahead of time, and we'll make sure that it's not something that rips off the inventor. But it's pretty cool that we know that every year at least one product is going to go all the way to market, built into it. And I actually want to have multiple of these, but Edison Nation is stepping up to do that. The other thing that he's going to help us do is Charlotte, North Carolina is a target city for us, because United Technologies wants us to go there and is willing to fund us getting things started there. And so he's going to work with UTC to convene the major leaders around Charlotte to launch the Charlotte Invention Convention for the fall of 2016, and ultimately hope to grow that into the North Carolina Invention Convention. So that's awesome. And then he's considering a board position. He might have a conflict he needs to check. And he's also wanting to see who else can join. That's a big thing for people that are of his stature. He wants to make sure there are other people of similar stature on the board. So those are all really good things, they're really active things, and typical of the types of conversations we're having with these heavy hitters. We've got a meeting that's going to happen this week with Steve Case's staff down in Washington, D.C., the founder of AOL. I know Cheryl Lynn has been talking to the staff for Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think Leslie had said that she knows Ashton Kutcher. So, you know, these are the types of things that we're trying to create win-win situations and help people meet their goals as well as us meet our goals. Bill?
Yep.
Any questions on that, by the way? Any concerns? Any thoughts?
I have a thought. This is Abby.
Sure, Abby.
Hi, Abby.
Hi. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, which is only an hour from Charlotte, and iHeartMedia also has a pretty big office there. Is there anything we can do to help getting Charlotte?
Absolutely. We'd love to, if we could get iHeartRadio's local group to, you know, possibly help out there too. Absolutely. I didn't know you guys are so close, but I guess now I think about it, of course you are that close. It's sort of, yep, I know where you are.
Yeah,
I got you.
Since our Invention Convention is kind of a, you know, anybody who wants to come can come, we actually have had a few students from North Carolina and between Charlotte and Greenville. And like I said, it's only an hour, so it's not that far.
That's great. Super. Thank you, Abby. Any other thoughts or questions on Lewis Foreman? Okay. Well, let's hop over. Now we're going to actually go to pretty pictures. So we've got a bit of a map of...
Today we're doing Pastel.
Well, Danny, you put together this map of, in terms of sort of penetration and opportunity so far. Do you want to walk through this?
Yeah, sure. So it's pretty obvious. Okay. So green states are the Green Party, the blue party, the Red Republican. No, okay. The green states are people that are on board and signed LOIs. The blue states are ones that we are actively in very serious discussions and pretty far down the pike on a number of fronts. Several of these have actually agreed to do things. We just haven't got the signed LOIs, like people from Texas and Oklahoma. Some very interesting conversations, like in New Orleans with the Valero Group, which is Valero Oil, if you've ever filled up at a Valero gas station. You know, they're looking at ways to take what they're doing in New Orleans and expanding it. I've got a call after this call with some people in California. Maine is supposed to kick off tomorrow after the elections. We had to get through today's elections. North Carolina, New York, we got lots of conversations going with multiple parties there. So lots of things going on there. The orange states are ones where we've had some level of discussions. We know the people. We're at earlier stages. We're not sure if they'll be in or not for this year. And for the red states, we just haven't really found anybody to talk to yet, or haven't. Those are the states that don't necessarily have a statewide competition. It's just a bunch of schools, and so we're still working to find the appropriate parties to talk to there. So I figure, all the greens, most of the blues, half of the oranges, that'll probably be what we look like in May. And if that's what happens, then that's a pretty good swath, I think, of for a first jump at this. Any thoughts, any questions, any observations?
I was going to ask, does any, of the states here that aren't yet in motion, the red ones, does anybody have any thoughts or contacts at those that might allow us to add to the engagement?
Some of these, like Michigan, you'd think would fall pretty easily, that there's got to be someone there. I think Kentucky, there's a lot of activity in Kentucky. Tracy, you might know some people up in Kentucky, being down in your neck of the woods. So in any event, this is I just thought I'd give you guys an update as to where we stand.
Cool.
Next slide.
Thanks. Yeah, sure. So we'd like to hop into talking about at-large participation in the sort of the homeschooling market as well. And we've been talking internally about how many slots should be allocated to at-large. If we've got 300 overall, what should be the right number or ratio? And does anyone have any thoughts of this? In your competitions, do you have? It sounds like Abby has all sort of at-large, but how is it with everybody else's competition?
This is Lori. Invent Iowa is a little bit of a hodgepodge of school-based and at-large enrollment, and so some schools will have a local Invention convention. It may be just at their district level. They may combine with neighboring districts and have a convention. And that's how they determine who their school is going to financially support coming to the state Invention convention.
Mm-hmm.
The state Invention convention itself is open to anyone can submit to see if they will qualify for state. So even if they have a local convention and they don't win their school support at that convention, they can still submit to see if they'll qualify for the state competition. They just have to financially support themselves.
And generally, what kind of percentage are at-large versus overall?
Ooh, I would have to look it up. It's a good, healthy blend of both. I don't know that we lean strongly one way towards the other or the other.
Right. It may not. It may be 50-50 or somewhere 10 or 15% either way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That sounds great.
Yep.
How about anyone else?
Does anybody have a specific homeschooling program?
This is Sherilyn. Prior to my departure of Ohio's program, we had, in addition to the public schools, which was a formula, such as you're using, Danny, to assign to the states, we added in both private schools and academies, and then the next year was homeschool. I don't know about the other states. In Ohio, there's about a top 3 homeschool organizations. A very large one is CHEO, Christian Home Educators Organization. Very large footprint, and we approached it the same way as the state, having regionals in Cincinnati, Dayton, Cleveland, and Columbus, the homeschools. If we had a coordinator homeschool parent who was willing to take the charge, I actually regionalized homeschools as well, and we had 3. I don't know if they've continued that in the last 3 years, but it's if you can, as a conduit into your program, just build, as Iowa was just speaking about, Lori, participation qualification, then anybody could outreach from the homeschool community, and you would just have a X amount. And if there were too many, instead of a percentage, it could just be by lottery. We've had to do that sometimes because the homeschool community is incredibly large. And we did the same approach when we added in the virtual academies, because the way of the world right now is e-schools and virtual and the same type of thing. We partnered in Ohio. It was OVHA. And we actually did outreaches live, live streaming. We did assemblies live streaming, and then we actually had representatives from that group live streaming. So it really is just in how you determine it, and throw the net large gives them a way to register. And then if you need to keep the numbers small, as we would in this year, you would could do it as a lottery of entries that have met the criteria. And because you haven't seen them in a building, in a brick and mortar building, you can require, as part of their entry, either a photograph upload or a small video upload, so you can actually see what you're getting, so you know when they come that they would qualify. At least that's one way to do it, as we did it before I retired from the Ohio program.
It's a great idea. Thanks, Sherilyn. Other thoughts on inclusion of at-large and homeschooling in terms of either what you do in your state or potentially what you'd like to see at a national level?
One question I have for people is that, are at-large and homeschooling the same thing? Should homeschooling be part of at-large? Or should we keep homeschooling as separate? Should we have like the national homeschooling competition and, pick the top 20, awards or whatever, or top X awards, and send them on to nationals, and bill that as a homeschooling thing and go and publicize this in the homeschooling process and possibly have a homeschooling version of the curriculum or whatever. And at large be more geared towards schools that have an invention convention, but there's no district or regional or state level competition, and they just need to be able to have a different type of outreach. I think the judging is the same, but I'm just wondering if the marketing might be different. Any thoughts on that? Don't be shy.
This is the interactive part, in case anyone was wondering.
This is Lori. I think the idea that you had of having an at-large and a homeschooling contingent, having them be separate, makes a lot of sense. They do seem as though they have two different needs from a support perspective and a marketing perspective.
Yeah, that was sort of my gut feel too. And it seems like, my understanding, I've got some friends that have homeschooled their kids, and it's really like a very much of a culture where they help each other and they share thoughts, and there's websites that support them, and it's a very much of it's not a closed environment, it's an open environment, but it's very centered on supporting themselves. And so I think if we crafted a program geared towards them, it would be probably pretty well received. And at large allows us to go ahead and also go to the schools. So that sort of seems to make sense to me too. What do we do if we've got an at-large, let's take South Carolina as an example, Abby. Someone from Hilton Head doesn't want to go all the way to Greenville and wants to apply at large. How do we deal with that?
I don't know. Because the ones that we've had come from, because we have had a few from like Columbia, from Charleston, from about almost Hilton Head, not quite, but they all come to the Invention Convention. They drive the 4 hours to Greenville and they participate in person.
And that's a tremendous vote of confidence and compliment to your event. Congratulations on having an event that people drive that far. They don't always do that. So you're doing it
Well,
right there.
there aren't many of them, but we do have a few.
That's okay. It's still a big
Danny,
deal for parents to drive 4 hours.
Danny, how would that, part of the number, having a number of 300 participants overall has been predicated on what you think is sort of financially reasonable the first year. If the at-large participants and homeschool participants self-funded, how would that change, or would it change your math?
You mean funded in terms of going to Washington?
Correct. Yeah. And at least what I've heard on this call and from others who regularly engage the homeschool students or children, they're very used to self-funding participation in events of this nature. At least that's been what I've heard. So if that's the case, would that change your formula in terms of how many people participated in Washington?
Well, I think, to answer it another way, we'd always planned that the at-large would have to be subject to a national sponsor, someone that would be willing to help sponsor all these kids from the various states, because we don't have people in each state willing to do that. And we try to find someone like a Staples or whatever that makes that happen. There actually are some corporate brands that are very friendly to homeschooling, for instance. I hadn't thought it all the way through there. I don't think it affects the number. I mean, I don't think we're sitting here trying to optimize versus who will pay and who won't pay. I think the general issue is what I am trying to figure out is what percent should be, what percent of the slots should be allocated for homeschooling, what percent should be for at-large. Is it a sizable percent? Is it only like 3%, 5%? I don't know. For the at-large, if we've got states that are contributing, we've got 50% of the states in the U.S. sending people. The other 50 states, do they get half? I don't think so, because the 50 states that are sending people have got competitions, they've got curriculum, they've got training, and so I'm not so. I think that's what we want to reward. So I don't think it's any sort of equal type of scenario. I think if I had to select a number, I'd say no more than 10% would come from at-large and homeschooling, but I could be talked off of that. Any sense from anybody else about what an element of fairness might be? What percent of people?
Well, this is Lori. Can I circle back to your earlier question about what that process might look like while I'm still thinking about an equitable number? When we have essentially the at-large submissions for Invent Iowa, they're submitting to the first round of Invent Iowa. And so the students who submit at-large are in the same judging pool as the kids who have already won their district or local Invention convention. And so what could happen, and I don't know if it's manageable on a national scale, is that you could say there are up to X number of seats available for homeschool students, and then there's a process by which they submit an inventor's log, a photo of a prototype, or a video of them giving a pitch, and then those are evaluated by a panel of judges, and of those kids, if we say the number is 10%, then the top 10% can come and compete at nationals. And if the top 10% aren't of what you perceive to be of quality for nationals, then you could have fewer students. That's why I put the qualifier of up to.
That's a good idea. So I hadn't thought about doing it as a percentage, but that actually makes a lot of sense. That's a good idea. Any other thoughts about at-large and homeschooling before we move on? All right. Well, great discussion. Thanks a lot for that. Bill?
Sure. Let's see. So allocation. So Danny, this is your math and magic formula. So do you want to walk us through this?
Well, so this is just, it's a relative number. These numbers are going to change as we add. I said before that we should have 20 to 25 states, and this represents, 11 states? And so, obviously, if we double the number of states in here, the allocations will at least be halved. And then we add in homeschooling and at-large, they'll come down a little bit more. But this is sort of just, if you run the numbers today based on who's here today and that sort of thing, if someone starts to feel like they've got a number that they want to hit, like let's say you've got something that works really well, like you've got 7 grades and a master award, and you want to send the top 2 in each grade, and you want to send the master award, which would be 15. Well, if you have those types of situations, let us know, because we're not going to be, you know, oh my gosh, it has to be exactly 300. It could be 301, 310, could be 290. We're not going to be that religious about this. So, but this is just meant to give you some ideas sort of some of the numbers that could be. I think roughly if you have this, you're sort of probably in about the right neighborhood of where you might be expecting things, and I think roughly again you can add between $700 and $1,000 per person that we need to raise for transport, food, and other stuff to attend. And so if you've got 20 people, then it's roughly, you know, $15,000 to $20,000 worth of funding that we need to raise for it to pay for everything. One of the nice things about this is the top 3 or 4 ones on this list could actually are in bus driving range. There's a 10-hour limit on buses. Some of them could do Amtrak. Some of them, you're definitely flying. So we still have open to have a lot of discussions with the airlines to see how many free tickets we can get and how many discounted tickets and that sort of thing, what sort of deals we can cut. And certainly between Georgia with Delta and Dallas with American and United in Chicago, there's people that we can talk to in some of these places about shaking loose some tickets and making some things happen. So does anybody have any questions about the allocations? Does anything seem off here, or these are using the ICEF formulas, and so when I look at them, it sort of seems to make conceptual sense to me. I mean, these seem to fall about where I would expect them to fall, given the numbers that you guys submitted.
Any thoughts or questions?
All right, well, I didn't expect a lot of discussion here because this is more just sort of showing you the state of things, and we'll update that as we go through. Massachusetts, so we're still looking for Mary Price and for the Florida delegation to send in their stuff, so just a little nudge if you're on the phone. Next.
Teams.
So this is our big discussion topic for today, okay? I'd love to hear from people, do you have team-based competitions? And if so, how does it work? Do you have a certain number of team members? Do they all present? Do you give awards to all of them, or one award to the team? Just anything we get about your experience with the teams in your state, and any recommendations you might have for finals. And also, what about the impact on allocations? If we say it's 3 team members, and we're trying to send 300 people to DC, and you've got 15 people, does that mean you can send 5 teams of 3 or 15 individuals or some combination thereof? So that's sort of the questions that I had here. Anybody have teams that they're operating in their states?
This is Abby. We do teams in our competition. One of our we don't have a limit.
Okay.
We don't have a limit. They can have as many number of people on their team as they like. They can register both as an individual and as a team if they want to. If they have 2 different inventions that they're a part of, they can be on multiple teams if they want to as well. Probably, it's not a whole lot that register as teams, probably 5 to 10%. for each Invention convention. And
Okay.
actually, one of our teams won Most Environmental last year. They had 6 people on their team, and the way we divided up the prizes is we have certain prize packs for, you know, whatever they happen to win, because we have 4th through 8th grade. So each grade has a 1st through 3rd place. We have an overall grand prize winner, and we have 5 superlative categories, like most environmental, most creative, etc. And each prize pack for each prize is different based on sponsors and what is provided to us. And how we split up the prize pack when the team won last year was we kind of raffled it off, where they all drew a number, and then we'd draw numbers for certain items, and then that one person would get that one item.
Okay. All right.
Cool. Oh, who else has teams?
In Iowa, we have teams. Our elementary school students frequently work with partners, and I know Leslie and Dawn bringing STEM Innovator into the middle and high school realm. That is a team-based curriculum as well, and their teams tend to be larger than partners.
This is Nicole, actually calling from New Hampshire.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
And we have about half of our program is team submissions for elementary school.
Do they tend to be the older kids?
They do, but not limited to the older kids. The majority of the grades in our program are actually 1st through 4th. So they tend to be 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders.
Hmm.
And you don't limit the number of team members?
Nope. I think we've actually had about 3 at most on a team.
Hmm.
Okay. So I didn't really expect people to say that you didn't have limits on team members. I thought people would say we do a 2-person team, or we do a 3-person team, or that's interesting. So it's a little bit hard to plan when you don't have specified team numbers.
Couldn't you say that?
I don't want to go and force everybody to change their programs. What thoughts on that? Bill, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess my thought would be, why wouldn't, so, you know, I appreciate the idea that the goal is to fund everybody's trip to DC, but the practicality of it, why not just say the Invention convention will fund up to 2 or 3 team members travel. After that, it's up to the team. And you know, I mean, you know, I think people would understand. It's not, I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable.
Any thoughts on that from anybody else?
That seems like a good idea to me. Send, you know, a representative or 2 from the team to go to the National Invention Convention.
I agree.
Okay.
I don't know if I said that Iowa also has individuals who submit inventions as well. But I think there's all sorts of ways for teams to determine who might represent their team at nationals, or ways to do individual local fundraising if they want to send more students.
Mm.
So I think that would have to be clearly stated if there is a cap, if it's the number of people at nationals and that the state level or larger organization is supporting, versus if there's a cap on the number of people who can come from a team.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see us facilitate their ability to fundraise to add supplemental individuals. I think that's a great idea. So just so because I'm guessing that a few others have joined us, just so we have a sense of anyone else is on the call. So I have Danny, Lori, Nicole, Sherilyn, Abby, and Tracy. Is anyone else on the call?
John Bolas from the University of Iowa.
Welcome, Don.
Well, hi, Don.
Hi, I've been hanging back. I agree with everything that's been said.
You can't say that.
I either agree or I'm hosting a showcase of young entrepreneurs in 5 minutes, so.
There you go.
Anyway, I am listening and everything sounds good.
That's cool. Has anyone else joined us?
Yeah, Helen's on the call.
Welcome, Helen. And anyone else? I just wanted to make sure that people who are on who hadn't been yet recognized felt welcome to join in. So Helen or Don or anyone else, anything else, any other thoughts on teams in terms of the infrastructure you think that would be most conducive to, sort of creating good results and aligning with the mission?
Well, but for the first time in 15 years history with the Connecticut Invention Convention, I'm voting for teams.
Mm.
I like the idea.
What's compelling you to do that? Why the change?
I just think that kids enjoy working together. Yeah, it's a little thornier in terms of whose idea and who built it and who documented it, but there's synergy there, and not everybody is a solo inventor, and we should honor the fact that kids like to work with each other on projects as well.
Good thought. Cool. Others who'd like to contribute to this conversation?
Well, this is Dawn, and Lori actually really nicely kind of summarized that we do have our students working in teams, and mainly it's just to emulate kind of what a real world experience that they need. And I think the other fact is that technology, there's so much technology that exists that it's easier than ever to actually partner effectively with another person.
Good point. Cool. Well, Danny, anything else that you wanted to make sure we talked about within teams? Danny? Okay. Well, I'm in charge then. Okay. So everybody else.
No, I'm sorry. I said it. It was on mute. Sorry about that.
Operator error.
And the funny thing is, right when I finished talking, you said, "Well, okay, I guess I'm in charge." So I thought that you were like, just moving on. So it's pretty funny. Sorry about that. No, this has been a great conversation. I got a lot out of it, and thank you very much for all your feedback. And it sounds like we got a pathway forward here. So so great. So next slide would be great, Bill.
Sure. I'm sure you were brilliant on mute.
I was totally great on mute.
No doubt. So let's, we do have a few additional minutes, Danny. It's just about 15 of 5. Do you want to hop into this next topic, or do we want to just frame it for the next conversation?
No, I think we can hop into this. We're well ahead of our time here, so we're doing great. So,
yeah.
So the things that we are spending a lot of time on right now is trying to get our website up and going and get the our look and feel and logos and business cards and things like that sort of stuff that just lets us be a lot more professional and be acknowledged for what we're doing. So we've had a couple people offer to connect us. That's great. We're still looking for those connections, and so if anybody has anything to add there, let me know. On the celebrity side, I think was it Leslie that said that she knew Ashton before? I'd love to follow up on that. Dawn, I don't think, or Dawn or Lori, was it one of you guys? I know it was not Iowa somehow.
No, it is Leslie. She sits next to his folks at the football games. So actually, probably shoot her an email sooner rather than later, because there's a couple more home games and then the season will be over here. The football
okay.
season.
Yeah.
We live and breathe black and gold here in Iowa.
So hot.
If anybody saw the end of the Miami Duke game the other day, being a Duke fan, I think my season's already over.
So.
Hey,
Although they
yeah,
fired all the officials in the game for how incompetent they were at allowing that last touchdown to stand. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to look at the video for the Duke Miami end. It's certainly one for the ages.
you're just waiting for basketball season. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. We're just stalling. And so we're still on the hunt for Mark Cuban, Mark Benioff, any famous inventors like James Dyson. Just again, if anybody has any connections or any ideas there, let us know. But you saw how rich the interactions have been with Lewis Foreman, and once we can start getting a couple of those people at that level helping us out, the doors really truly open up on a number of different fronts. I'll also add one thing that I didn't mention here is that we had a great conversation. This is off topic and off slide. Sorry, Bill. We had a great conversation a week or two ago with the head of the vice chairman of the UNICEF Innovation Centers worldwide. And these are centers that they're putting in countries around the world to help them think about innovative ways to move their country forward. And we're talking about doing a pilot with them to talk about how we might be able to bring the Invention Convention concept to the developing world. And so she was pretty excited about that. We're hoping that that is going to take off in the next year or so. It's not our top priority, but certainly something that I think could be very meaningful for a lot of the people that we're working with. Thanks, Dawn.
Thanks.
Danny, as I look at the celebrities, one of the things that jumps off the page to me is that they're all men. And I'm guessing all white men as well. So I wonder if we want to think about how do we build somewhat of a diverse connection here to celebrity inventors or
right,
celebrities.
As a matter of fact, this morning we were having a lot of discussions about tapping our Startup America group, and we were talking about possibly getting to people like Tory Burch, Nina Baca, who's head of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and Kathleen Warner down in Southern Connecticut. Bill, you know her, is rather tapped into a lot of the women entrepreneurs in the country, and so trying to find out the best pathway there, and trying to figure out who might be the best ones to have on board there. So absolutely, it's a great idea. It's something we're thinking about. And if anybody else has great ideas about people that we could connect with, I've historically talked to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's not been too interested in this sort of thing. But you know, when we try to think about people that are again well known to the media out there, any of the sharks would be great. Women, minorities, whatever, you know, any of those would be great. So I think we want to have a distributed board with distributed diversity. And so it's that was not intentional, and it's certainly not the direction. So we're open to all comers.
It seems like we need to be intentional with that, I would think. Does anyone know or have contacts to Lori Grenier or Barbara Corcoran? Okay. Well, my guess is Lori Grenier certainly spent a lot of time in, I don't know how many patents she has, but I believe it's a lot. So that might be good. So let's see. So then for the next call, one of the things that you wanted to talk about, Danny, was a tagline for the National Invention Convention. So what we have here, and I probably could have highlighted this a bit better, but is several of the states' different taglines. So Connecticut, every kid is in every school, an inventor once, better twice. Idaho, a voyage of discovery. Illinois, inspiring curiosity, confidence, invention, and creative problem solving in our youth. New Hampshire, meant to invent. New York, inventive kids creating a bright future. Ohio, every possibility exists in a child's mind. And South Carolina, real kids solving real problems. Love it. So what are you hoping from this?
Marketing specialist come on next time and work with each state to comment on what he likes and doesn't like about the taglines and make some suggestions for those of you that don't have them, and also to help us with one for the national effort. And so I thought it would be a very interesting conversation to have someone come on and try to help move everybody's program forward. So if we don't have your tagline correct on the screen, let us know. If you're thinking about changing it, let us know. So the idea is to make this an interactive type of thing where everybody walks away with some feedback on their tagline. And I hope if you have other items, other issues that you'd like to try to move forward with your inventions, that we can invite speakers to come on to help do similar types of things, by all means, let us know. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah?
Sounds
all right.
Good. So our next meeting is Tuesday, November 17th. You should all have a calendar invite for that, and in fact, you should have calendar invites through the end of the year. If you don't, please let me know, and I'll double check to make sure that you're on the list. And we will. This call is being recorded, so we'll provide the recording of that in the next couple of days with a follow-up email. But before we sign off, is there anything at this point that would help anyone? I know Lori had mentioned that Iowa would need help with fundraising. Is there anyone else that would like some help with fundraising as well? Okay, great. Is there are there any other topics that anyone was hoping to bring up? Well, sounds good. Danny, anything else?
No, I think we're good to go. I would try to keep this stuff religious and being done by 5 o'clock every day, and so ending a little bit early is not that much of a problem for me. So I wish everybody a good week. Thanks a lot for your feedback, and we'll be in. If you have any tagline information, be sure to send that along to us.
Fantastic. You all get 8 minutes back today. Go enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye now.